let's get started with the foreground here. So I am going to, let's title, let's keep up with our layer management. So mountain highlights. Well, let's just call it mountain midground. So that way we can remember it's that. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer here, and we'll call this one foreground snow. So what I want to do now is start adding in the snow, and I want to do a complete difference, or like a differentiating part here. And I just realized I need to go down and paint this area here with this. So I'll come back to this here, but I'm going to do this real quick. So I'm going to go with oily round, and I'm going to bring this size up a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of bring that down a little bit more. Okay, I've not had much lag with Rebelle at this size ratio and all that, but I think my computer's having some issues. Anyway, all right, so that's going to kind of go there. And then here. Wow, I'm getting a lot of lag all of a sudden. Hadn't had any. I'm going to change this to a little bit bluer color. There we go. Yeah, I don't know what the deal was with that. Let me switch over to the filbert. Okay, I was worried it was my brushes, but apparently it's not. It's just Rebelle, and probably my recording software are competing with each other right now, or something's running kicked on in the background, maybe an update or something I wasn't aware of. So what I want is to just kind of bring that across there, like so. But since this is being all persnickety, I'm just going to do so I did delete L, because I don't feel like sitting there fighting that brush. So, all right, so Control D. So that was the same. This is really the same as this one, this color that we used before, but I just switched it to a bluer color. And so now it's the same value still, but you can see that it, just by having it a little bit bluer, and the way it's designed is more solid, it brings it forward some. And again, we're going to add more highlights to this, which will really bring it forward. But I just wanted to go ahead and get that in there. So I'm going to bring some of this kind of down through here. This. And I think I'm going to grab this rock. This is one of the new ones. Turn off the ratio lock. This down here, and just kind of need to switch brush. That flat oily is going to leave a square. So let me switch over to this one. So what I want this to look like down here is a bunch of rocks that have snow on them. So by using this river rock stencil that I made, it'll give me some of that feel. I'm just going to save this in case this thing crashes. Again, not Rebelle, but it's my system. I got to figure out what's running in the background. Squish that around. See, because it keeps coming and going. Anyway. So that kind of breaks that up quickly. And then I can take this brush and just kind of do a similar. thinking about where rocks would be, where areas would fall off, leaving some dark edges here and there. I'm just tapping, that's all I'm doing. And changing the size with my brackets. We can have that run off into the water area. So remember that black part that we put there? See how that's under there now? That was the point of doing that. And some of these that I'm deciding that I want to bring out further, I'll go back down to that water layer and I'll add black in here. That really dark bluish black. This just kind of helps give some interest to that shoreline. Kind of fades off into the water. Like so. I can even grab, like I've got this Pebbles one here, which is fantastic for roadways and stuff like that. So I'm going to stretch it a little bit. And it's designed to kind of go off into the distance. Like you can see how it's bigger here and it kind of fades back. That was done on purpose. All right, so I'm going to bring it over. And then I'm just going to add a few here and there that are flattened out. And that'll keep my water looking flat. Because if all of these are too angled, your water's going to look like it's running off the side of the canvas. Okay. Now I'm going to go grab a little bit darker blue here and kind of add some different stuff here and there. Just kind of some spots of color. And some of these will be painted back. I mean, this is just kind of building layers, because remember, we're still, for this part, we're still definitely in the underpainting. But I want to add some of these in here, like so. And I'm even going to go down here and I'm going to grab this really dark blue. If I want to go back to it, I can just open that up and click on it. And I want to add some of these in here. So it looks like maybe some rocks in the water don't necessarily have snow on them or don't have much. Again, it just adds a little bit to the story and the neat details that people can look at and be like, oh, look, there's some more stuff there. There's some more of this. There's some more of that. So let me back this out of the way. So you can kind of see how it builds up. Some of that down through there. Okay. So I can even come back and grab this again. Save it. The ratio, turn off the lock ratio, change the size. On some of these, I can go in and paint, which this is probably one of those things I should zoom in on. So what I'm doing is I'm painting on the bottom side of the stencil areas. Okay. And what that's going to do, especially with this round oil brush, is it's going to give the feeling of rocks have snow on the tops of them. Just by painting on always on the bottom side of an opening in the stencil. Okay. So see how that looks like it's going over it? Now all I got to do is switch to 4. And I'll grab one of my cat tongue. Still going back to 4. Just kind of soften these up so that it looks like the snow is kind of drifting over it. Like so. So this is one of those areas where you can lose yourself in it, as far as, you know, just sitting here messing around over and over and building it up. But by dragging this down, it does give that feel of like the light kind of falling off behind it. It builds up like we did on the mountains, where it's kind of circling around. And so you start getting these really cool looking rocks, and you're not having to spend forever and a day on it, you know. You're just using good technique that makes it look like you did spend forever and a day on it, but you're just being more efficient with what you're doing. And see how that starts to really build that down into there? Like so. The period button, that zooms us back out. We've got some texture here that I'm not overly fond of, so I'm going to come back down here. Still got the cat's tongue. And let's see, nah, a little too much, so I'm just going to go to Blend tool and soften that out. I'm not going to worry about anything that's down here, because for the rocks and stuff, that would look good. Always look for these little spots where maybe the selection tool didn't quite get it, and blend those out. I'm just kind of jumping back and forth, looking for any artifacts that are left. And what I mean by artifacts are just spots like where the selection tool didn't quite cover it, or there was a flat spot that left a horizontal streak, or something like that that I just don't care for. Okay, so that gives us that kind of stones and everything going on through here. Now what I want to do, this is really for lack of a better word, a dirty snow kind of look. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to go back up towards the top. Drop down some of my color so that I'm keeping kind of this. It's not white, but it's going to look really white. For what I'm going to do to add in some more color, some more highlights. So let's see, we've got the cat's tongue still, so we could play around with it. But see how bright that is on there, even though that is not white. Alright, so just a little bit of that. So I just added a little more blue, is all I did. Okay, now this one picks up the canvas quite a bit for that. So I'm actually going to switch over to my express oils. Some of the ones that I have here. I have a pebbles brush, and I have a smudge stick and so forth. So I'm going to grab the smudge stick. Let's take a look at how that interacts. So that's going to give us, I think, some interesting drift. So if we want to come down into here and just kind of drift into it, we definitely could. Now you have to kind of think about scale, because right now we don't have anything scale-wise for this, as far as like trees or anything like that that go in here. So we have to kind of contemplate what kind of scale do we want on this. I'm wanting to put some buildings, but see, I could put a big cabin here, and that would really pull this forward and make it look, you know, give that scale. I'm thinking about maybe putting some smaller ones. So maybe having like, it looks like maybe a road comes around, you know, something like maybe that. And something like I'm going to switch this over to 4 and really kind of start blending these together to get those drifts. Change my size. In the direction I'm just kind of going this way. Because again, just like the mountains, you always want to kind of blend in whatever direction your topography goes. So that gives me some interest. And you can see just by hinting at this road here, that really gives us some scale even already. So it kind of lets us know, well, if this is a road, then now I know roughly how big like a truck might be or a person might be or something like that. Right, so I'm going to switch over to this rice paper brush. Oops. It also helps if I switch back. Because this is going to be, now this is a kind of a smooth inking brush. Like see, it does, but it leaves a little bit of texture on the edge. Okay. Because I want to put in some of these highlights. Or drifts of snow. And I can switch back to 4. Just really softly blend it. Like so. Come down through there. Okay, much like the mountains, if you are adding these things, make sure to leave spaces, gaps, and so you don't cover it all up. Press 3, which is kind of a paint and blend. So if I had a little pressure, it puts down a little bit more paint. If I keep it soft, it just kind of blends it like I'm on 4. A little bit more towards the top. So. So I want to add a little bit more blue to this area down through here. I think that's a little too grayish. Now that I go back and look at it some more. So once I've got it blended in and kind of the color I want, I'm just going to go back and add it here and there to some of this. And then just kind of soften it around. So don't be afraid to go back and kind of tweak stuff, you know. I mean, you're the master of this world, so make it do what you want it to do. But I think having some of that gray in there and then adding some of this blue, I think gives it a lot more interest. Now, if I had done this on a different layer, I could be keeping more of these textures that I had put in here. But again, worried about it. I can come back and soften stuff and move stuff and twist stuff and push stuff. So don't fret about it. But if you want to have the control over it, just do it on a separate layer. Yeah, I think that's looking better. So let me kind of blend some of these. Because this is that oil brush, or it's oil, I can really smear this around and get kind of a neat look. Like, and just kind of softly go back and pull some of these together. And don't worry, there is always going to be a spot where you feel like it's just not working. That's normal. Completely normal. Just trust the process. Trust that you'll get it done. Know that there's going to be that frustration level. And you can get it taken care of. It's not a big deal. Okay, so just have that like so. Let me save this and we'll come back to the next part.